You see the title, you see the thumbnail, you already know what I'm talking about. So basically there's this YouTuber named Schlep whose main purpose in life is catching predators on Roblox. Now how do you think Roblox would reward him? If you said banning him and threatening to sue him, you'd be correct. Now why did they decide to do this? Well, I have two answers. Okay, well not really answers, but one of them is a fact and the other one's kind of like a theory, you know what I mean? But just say I have two answers. The first one is pretty simple. Roblox refused to do anything about the predators. Like, some of them still have their accounts up, and one of them was almost invited to an official Roblox event. This forces people to use other methods to catch these groomers. Investors see this and want nothing to do with it. So, to me, banning Schlep seems like they wanted to silence the potential outrage. But what makes me believe this wasn't about investors is the fact that this isn't the first time they've banned a pred hunter. A few years ago, they banned Rubinson for doing the exact same thing that Schlep was doing. Now maybe this was just because everybody hated Rubinson, but nobody talked about the investment stocks. Which leads me to my theory. The Epstein theory. The YouTuber Guamgo made a video about this situation, and in this, he made the connection between David Baszucki and Jeffrey Epstein. And when you take a look at it, it all makes sense.
Because Roblox's own CEO, David Baszucki, has his name tied to Jeffrey Epstein. Before we get into David Baszucki, I need to set the stage with someone whose name keeps popping up in this story. Henry Kissinger. Henry was the US Secretary of State in the 1970s, infamous for greenlighting brutal foreign policy decisions. But here's the part most people don't know. In 1975, the State Department destroyed a massive client list tied to John Dean Norman, a man who ran a nationwide child ring. That list reportedly documented tens of thousands of clients, including public officials and influential figures. Years later, Henry's name also appears in Jeffrey Epstein's so-called Black Book. Now, to be crystal clear, a name appearing in the contact book does not by itself prove any crime. But that overlap is exactly why people keep drawing lines between these circles. So how exactly does this come back to Roblox? Henry had deep ties to the Paley Media Council, or Paley Center for Media, a high-powered divisive media network patched with top executives and public figures. And who else is listed as connected to the Paley Center? Roblox's CEO, David Baszucki. On paper, the Paley Council is a member club for media and tech leaders, but the roster includes people who aren't media in any normal sense. Former high-ranking government officials like James Baker and Robert Gates, for example. You also have Tony Blair, a former UK Prime Minister whose name shows up in Epstein's address book. Keep in mind that an Epstein accuser has said that she was forced to do the thing with a former Prime Minister. Then you have Jimmy Savile, one of the UK's most infamous whose decades of crimes are now public record, and Rupert Murdoch, a major media mogul who has been socially connected to Ghislaine Maxwell's family and is also listed in Epstein's contact book. Then in 2023, P. Diddy was named a trustee of the council at the same time his own name was wrapped in serious allegations. That's the kind of company the council keeps. Here's why this matters for Roblox. David Baszucki's connection to the Paley Center places him in the same elite network as multiple figures with Epstein ties.
Now this is just a theory and is 99% wrong, but there's always that 1%. And if that so happens to be true, then it would all make sense as to why they're defending predators. But let me know what y'all think about the situation and make sure to subscribe because we're on the road to 500 subs.